On the November Market Report episode of the SLO County Real Estate Podcast, we find that cash is king when it comes to buying one of the few homes available in SLO County, and learn how lenders are getting creative when it comes to getting people into homes at an affordable payment that they can be comfortable with. Ermina Karim from Guaranteed Rate joins the team to talk about some new construction projects in the county. Plus, there is some great information at the end of the podcast on how your family can go see a holiday classic on Hal at the fabulous and historic Fremont Theater in SLO. With more on all of it, here's your host, James Bueno.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another SLO County Real Estate Podcast with the one and only Mr. Hal Swayze. Hal, how are you?
I feel great since somebody, I don't know the last time someone's called me a gentleman, so thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome. You're a distinguished gentleman.
Thank you.
At that.
Yeah, I'll take it.
Mr. Turner, rolling his eyes at the distinguished gentleman. How are you, sir?
Well, I'm glad we have at least one in the room.
Yeah. And then we, as always, Mr. Pete, how are you?
I'm doing great, man.
Back from traveling across the world.
Yeah, a little Spain journey. Yeah. Well, I'm glad to be home. Boy, what a blessed place we live in.
Yeah.
Holy smokes.
Right, yeah.
Take a little time away. You can really appreciate what you got.
Awesome.
All right, I'd love to share.
And then for our market update today, Hal, we have a special guest. And who is it?
Yes, Ermina Karim with Guaranteed Rate is here.
Let's start over that.
Yeah.
Hal, and we have a special guest with us today, right? Who is that?
We have the wonderful Ermina Karim from Guaranteed Rate here, who's going to help us run the lending side for a couple of episodes. So thanks for coming.
Thanks for the invitation.
Yes, of course.
And it's the beginning of the month, so what do? We need to talk about the market, right?
Yeah, a little update like we do sometimes on our videos, or not sometimes, every month. We look at numbers, but for a lot of us, what do they mean is what we try to interpret. That's our job. If you've listened to any of our updates, you'll hear some similar things. So right now, the number of homes for sale is down a little bit from last year and probably up a little bit from last month. About 5%. Same thing with our sales is down a few percent, 5% from a year ago. So a few less sales happening in the county of San Luis Obispo. And then our pending sales are down about 10% from last year. And then we also, so we have a little less activity in the marketplace, and we have 12% new properties coming on the market than last year. So last year we thought it was pretty lean, so it's pretty lean. Here's what I always like to talk to people about because it gives us kind of the direction of the market. So we had 115 people put their properties up for sale last month, but we had 161 close. So we have more coming off the market, selling, going away, than new ones to replace them. And we've been talking about this for at least, how long ago did COVID start, finish? Yeah, it's a couple of years now, right? 2023. Oh my gosh.
3 years.
Yeah.
3.5.
So not uncommon to have had this going on. So people always worry about what's going to happen. All we do know is our inventory is relatively low, right? Ermina, in terms of your world, we've had a bump in interest rates, et cetera, come up, come down. Everything's moving pretty quickly. How would you characterize the volume now versus a few months ago or a year ago?
On the purchase side?
Is there any other side?
There's no.
Okay, that's the only side, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
On the purchase side, frankly, so much of what we're seeing is on the new construction component being available for buyers. And so builders being able to incentivize with helping address the interest rate scenario.
Got it.
Has been helping quite a bit.
You work on a couple of the new home developments. You're the approved lender there, so
That's
you're
correct.
seeing that activity.
That's correct.
And sometimes they show up in our MLS, sometimes they don't.
That's right.
But I think one of the, was it Avila Ranch here? They were sold out for a while, I think, but they're just releasing a new phase. Am I getting that right?
You're seeing new homes come on that they are now selling directly. So some of those units, some of them are deed restricted homes or short-term or long-term deed restricted homes. So you're seeing quite a few more of those come onto the market that Avila Ranch is selling.
And some are not selling in the MLS, right? Because they've got this backup waiting list, and everybody's waiting for
that was the case, but now they're pulling them all onto the MLS.
Okay, they are.
Yeah,
okay.
Marketing more widely.
Okay, they need a little more help there. So, John, you always are looking at information like this, and we were talking about this the other day. Who would have thought? Well, first of all, people ask me, what's going on in the marketplace? Well, I can tell you, I have conversations with the clients, and they're much longer than they were before. People have a lot more questions, buyers, sellers, what's happening, what's going on, what's right for me. And we came up this, who would have thought was our theme the other day. So who would have thought at this point we'd have over half of the sales in the county are cash. So as a lender, that shrinks your market even more, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Who would have thought that rates went from 3% to 8% and virtually our prices haven't really moved very much. I mean, that's a huge move, and how resilient the market would be.
What's interesting is if you look back in our history, you really can't draw a correlation between home values moving up or down and interest rates. So when you go back into the late 70s, early 80s, when rates were as high as we've ever seen them, home values were still going up. It is, to me, somewhat surprising.
It is, yeah.
And it's somewhat surprising today.
And it's funny because we can all look at different ways the market, like we're talking about prices. Are they up? Are they down? Are they sideways? Jay's looking at median prices.
Median for the most part, yeah.
Yeah, we pull up average prices. John will look at, another way to look at it is like, okay, the office sold this many houses and the average price of the homes we sold is 100 and plus more than last year. Is that what you came up with?
Our average sale in 2022 was $950,000 per property. Our average so far this year is $1,103,000. That's a $153,000 increase on 950. That's 15% or more. I wouldn't go onto the front page of the San Luis Tribune and say home values have gone up 15% in 2023.
Right.
Just ours is a smaller sample size, but I wouldn't go on the front page and say home prices are dipping either.
It might be a small sample size, but it's exact. The information that Hal and I are pulling, like the median and the averages, we're using aggregators for that information. And we can't always guarantee that information is 100% accurate. The numbers that you're talking about, John, are your numbers. You know them. And so we know they're 100% accurate.
John did the addition on a piece of paper.
Oh,
with a
well,
pencil,
okay.
So not 100%.
Is that what that napkin was all about?
Yeah. No. Oh, okay. He carried the 4. He's good.
I saved my bar napkin last night.
Perfect.
Yeah. You look at pricing, and people always seem to be concerned about pricing. And we've talked about this before. It's so interesting to me that people are, and I get it. You're concerned about the value of your home, but it's not like you take your car off a lot and a year later you go, well, what's it worth today? Is it going up and down in value? Or we talked about business owners, right? They're running their restaurant. If there's a restaurant market, how much is my restaurant worth? Yesterday we had a bunch of sales, and the day before it was quiet. Is my restaurant worth more or less today? They just go about their lives, right? So I think, as we always talk about, there's life events that occur where people want to buy, sell, finance, refinance, those types of things.
What we're talking about in the marketplace today and we've talked about it before, is fear. The people are fearful with all that's going on in the world and with what's going on in the real estate industry. There's some fear out there.
Sure.
But you ask the potential buyer, if you bought a house today and you woke up a year from now and it had gone down 10%, what would you do?
Stay in the house. I got to live somewhere.
The answer is you'd get up and make breakfast, you get the kids ready for school, and you'd get them off to school and go to work.
Yeah.
Now, if you woke up a year from now and the value of your home had gone up 10%, what would you do?
Same thing.
The answer is you'd fix breakfast for the kids, you'd get them off school, and you'd go to work. And yet we all put so much emotional energy into, am I buying at the exact right time? I want to buy at the exact right time. Well, think about those people who bought in 2007 and woke up in 2010. What happened?
A little concerned.
They bought at the exact wrong time if you'd ask them on that day. What if you ask them today?
Yeah. If they stayed in the house, they're ecstatic.
Oh,
doubled their value.
Oh, yeah. So we get all wound up and spend all this emotional energy around, I got to buy my house on the exact right day. I got to buy my stock on the exact right day. Just buy it and go. Let's go. Have a little blind faith. And all we can look at is history.
It's funny when you talk about those numbers, $1.1 million and $950 last year is the pricing that we've done as a company. And I remember when I moved back to the area, I was 2 years in the Bay Area after Cal Poly and came back, and we were looking at houses, and I couldn't afford one, but it was 1989, and there was a cheap Spanish-style house downtown for $200,000. I went, geez, I can't believe it's $200,000 for a house. And then, 4 or 5 years later in real estate, I think my average sales price was $195,000. That's what you got to go to Oklahoma to get $195,000, I think. There's nowhere in California,
no,
right?
Definitely not.
$195,000. There's no way.
California Valley.
Oildale, maybe?
Oildale, yeah.
$195.
So yeah, it is just the power of time and a good location.
Are you seeing any shift in the buyer pool that you're dealing with? from last year to this year or over the last few years?
More cash because 8% is way tougher than 5.5 or 6. So who would have thought a year and a half ago when we were talking about this we'd be at 7.5 or 8. So we don't know where it's going right now. We still have entry level buyers, and we're seeing baby boomers are selling and buying, right? And we're seeing millennials coming to the table and buying.
From your end, Ermina, when you are working with first-time home buyers, are many of them getting some type of family help?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I think to get the figures into a place that they can swing the nut, the 20% down is very regularly with cash gifts from family.
So the kids are happy their parents made a good decision about a piece of real estate because they've enjoyed that appreciation.
Absolutely.
And they can use that to help.
I mean, we just did it in our family with
Right.
our daughter.
Yeah.
And closed
Good.
on a townhome, trying to help her get in, and
Yep.
just to get in on the ladder.
Yeah. So, in general, the market is doing well. I would say it's probably normalizing, right? So we're seeing a little bit more time on the market. Jay, you're seeing that company-wide, I imagine, right?
And we're carrying over 100 listings right now, and they just aren't going anywhere.
Okay.
So I think the expectation was, prices were X. They're actually X less, maybe 5%.
And then, so we don't have the depth of buyer pool, right? So there might be one or two good buyers for a good property, but if you miss the mark on price,
You're going to be sitting there for a while. Yeah.
So I want to come back to that X minus some percent. What that suggests to me is that the 100 listings that you have, that many of them will experience at some point before the sale a price reduction.
Well, what we're seeing more regularly is, rather than a price reduction, is a concession to buy points down so the buyer can come in and get a better rate.
Let's go back to a price reduction, though. Is a price reduction necessary? Does that necessarily mean home values are going down?
I think home values would be more stabilized in that scenario. It's a common misconception. Like, my neighbor's house sold for $1 million, and it's been a month, and the values are going up. My house should go for $1.1 million, right? Okay, let's list it for $1.1 million. That $1 million sale was specific to a buyer that was coming out of a 1031 exchange, or they're bringing their tax basis with them from another area, and they were willing to pay that $1 million when the house might have been worth $950. So there's all kinds of very nuanced situations. That's why working with a real estate professional is so key, right? Number one, you're going to get priced properly. Number two, you're not going to be in a spot where you're having to make these additional concessions because you priced the property correctly.
I'm glad you said that, because I would bet that if the local media were to jump on that issue, they would say, because of the price reductions, that means that home values are going down.
well, when you look back to a few months ago when mortgage rates are around 6.5%, you say in July and August, was that about right?
A little bit higher, 7.
Yeah, 7. Okay, they got up to 8 or whatever. So,
Sure.
yeah, there's usually just more activity. There's more people that can buy in that time frame. So it affects the supply and demand. But again, we just went from, the numbers we have of how few homes for sale in a county of 250,000, it's still a really low inventory market. And a little bit more time on the market is probably healthy, because it's not so stressful for buyers. And it means sellers have to be a little bit more patient. And we as agents, it makes a difference. There's a lot more counseling I have to do with people like, okay, it hasn't sold in 2 or 3 weeks. Either we need to wait a little bit longer for the buyer to come along, or if somebody else is a better value on the marketplace, we might have to be competitive with that. So price and condition comes back into play.
Days on market are still well below 60.
Yeah.
So we've still got I haven't seen, a balanced market with regards to time on market in 10 years. So under 60 days on the market, you're still looking at a seller's market.
Just a fun antidote to time on the market. Hal listed and sold the house that's next door to me. Went on the market Monday. It was agreed to, and escrow got open Tuesday morning. So those things are still happening.
Yeah. Well, that's properly priced.
It's a properly priced house, which was Hal's expertise working with a seller. They did clean it up a little bit, so the condition was better than it was 20 days before it went on the market.
Right.
So price and condition were good.
At our little market stats, days on the market, for those that are selling, 7 days in Grover last month, 33 days in San Luis, days on the market in Morro Bay, 7 days. But the ones that aren't selling are on the market 72 days, 44 days, the active listings, right? So you have to, where do you make that demarcation? How do you determine, how do I get in that first 30 days, or do I want it to take 3 months, right?
Well, you said something a couple of episodes back about if you don't price it right, there's a real penalty to pay.
Yeah. It's a price sensitive. It's become more price sensitive for sure. James, can we make a plug here?
Yeah, it's your show.
And help me out with this because you're help setting it up. But we do an annual movie event where we rent out the Fremont Theater.
We do.
So we have our holiday movie event December 2nd. Correct. How do you describe the Fremont?
The fabulous Fremont.
Fabulous Fremont.
Historically.
Historically and fabulous. Yeah.
The movie starts at 9 a.m.
9 a.m.
Doors open at 8:30.
Yep. So,
and if you mention the podcast, you'll get a free snack.
Okay, good. And free entrance.
And free entrance.
And if you don't mention the podcast, you'll get
2 free snacks.
Yeah. As many as you can put in your hand on the way in. Yeah. So we've been doing this for a couple of decades. We really enjoy it. If you know us, you've got an invitation. But if you don't and we haven't connected with you, you can call our office.
Yeah, or shoot us an email.
Yep. So 805-781-3750 is that number.
Yes, sir.
And the website?
HalSwayze.com, or you can email myself, James, at teamswayze.com. We'll get you signed up.
So it's fun. I think the most we've put in there is about 650 people. It holds 800.
A little bit different this year. We're actually voting. Viewers vote on the movie that we're going to show. So the first one is Elf. Second is Nightmare Before Christmas. And the third is...
That's the Tim Allen one?
Santa Claus.
Santa Claus is the other.
So those are the 3. Santa Claus, Nightmare Before Christmas, and Elf. So if you send me an email, I will send you a voting form. It's an RSVP, and then you can vote on for which movie that you'd like to see. That's Elf, Nightmare Before Christmas, Tim Burton's Nightmare Before Christmas, and then Tim Allen's The Santa Claus.
Nice. So when I voted for Terminator 2, that's not one of the choices.
I said Die Hard. The debatable Christmas movie.
So what else do we have to share with our audience about where we are in the marketplace today before we wind this episode up?
We talk about it a lot. I think this is just, if you're fortunate enough to own real estate here, you're happy. If you're fortunate enough to have a low mortgage rate, you're happy. If you need to move, it can happen, but some people don't want to give up, certain things like an interest rate, that sort of thing. So we can help you with all those options and how you make the best of this marketplace. But it's a regular place where people are buying and selling homes. I'm not as bullish on how I present it as John would be. Let's put it that way.
Well, I would just say anything that you do in real estate makes you look like a genius as long as you stick around long enough, especially in this county in residential property. Name one person who bought a piece of residential property 20 years ago that isn't just so glad they did. Name one.
Well said.
So,
well, let's end on you're saying there, JT. What is it? Time in the market?
It's not timing the market. It is time in the market.
All right. On that note, gentlemen, thank you very much. Ermina, thank you very much for being here. We will talk to everybody next week.
Thank you, James.
Yep.
See you, James.
Thank you for listening to the Hal Swayze podcast. Be sure to subscribe and rate this podcast. Check for it in your feed for the latest information on the San Luis Obispo County market. The SLO County Real Estate with Hal Swayze podcast is available wherever you get your podcast and on HalSwayze.com, where you can find current listings and other real estate tips. HalSwayze.com, that's HalSweasey.com. I am James Bueno, Director of Marketing for the Hal Swayze Group. If you're looking for anything real estate, give us a call, 805-781-3750.
Hal Swayze is a licensed California real estate broker. DRE number 01111-911. The SLO County Real Estate with Hal Swayze podcast is a production of AGM Podcasts. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.